This video is an excerpt from a much longer France travel talk by Steve Smith. To view other topics or to watch Steve's France talk in its entirety, visit ricksteves.com or check out my Rick Steves YouTube channel. Enjoy.
Paris, world capital, Paris, city of light, world capital of fashion, art, literature, food, and all things fine that civilization has to offer. This is the highlight of anybody's trip to France, probably, if they have never been before. Notice the city that you're looking at here, the beauty is man-made. Notice the height of the buildings, 8 stories. It's a very human scale, and throughout the entire central part city of Paris. Here, pedestrians are treated to this sort of human scale that makes them feel good about walking from point A to point B. The city works well in any season. I'm not a big fan of travel in off-season to every place, but cities like Paris, whether it's summertime in the warmth of the summer when the city becomes like one big festival, and by the way, hotel rooms tend to go on sale in the month of August because Europeans don't travel that much to cities at that time of year. This time of year, Paris looks like this in the fall. It's beautiful. All the trees are deciduous. They all change. The parks, Paris has the amount of space devoted to people is remarkable in the city. And in the wintertime, my favorite time to go, and I'm not kidding, is when the City of Light earns its name. Christmas in Paris or any time near or after that. It's a lovely time to experience the city. It rarely snows. The moderate temperatures of traveling in Paris can be compensated for with proper dress. Cafes, you'll share them with the locals and you, and museums will be much quieter naturally at this time of year. I like winter travel so much that I wrote a whole chapter about it in the guidebook to help you understand why and where and what to do about it in Paris. Consider that. Flights are cheaper. Hotel rooms commonly are cheaper in January, February, March as well. Hotel rooms in Paris are smaller than the average. Get ready for it. Book your rooms early. Don't wait. I list places with great deals. $100 for a comfortable double room, $125. Are you kidding me? But you have to book those before other people get to them. There are only so many of them, right? I list hotels in 4 different neighborhoods because only 4 different neighborhoods, because I'd rather have an average hotel in a really cool neighborhood than a really great hotel in a crummy neighborhood. Think about that. So the neighborhoods we list in Paris are the Rue Claire area, the pedestrian-only shopping street that you see in front of me, near the Eiffel Tower. The hip and trendy, if you're young and you want to stay out at night, Marais district, near the Ile Saint-Louis. We also list hotels on the Ile Saint-Louis as those areas are basically connected. The stately Luxembourg Garden area surrounding this beautiful park, I think Paris's most beautiful park, on the edge of the Latin Quarter for those who want to dabble in all things Latin. To the budget neighborhood of Montmartre. The further you get from the river, the cheaper hotels get in Paris. And Montmartre is a 15-minute subway ride from the river where, along the river, most of Paris's sites reside, you see. Like about focusing on 4 neighborhoods is in each of those neighborhoods, we list restaurants, lots of them, cafes, travel tips, allowing you to come home after a busy day of sightseeing and not need to take a bus or a subway to a restaurant or to go do something. You're a temporary local in that neighborhood. Post offices and all sorts of things like this so that you can function as a local. Your learning is understanding what you're looking at and why it matters. This is why you came to Paris. Our books, I think, respect that by offering terrific information focused on your sightseeing. Our main guide to Paris describes 21 different walking tours of museums, neighborhoods, castles, and monuments, and 50 other sites with good descriptions listed in that guidebook. Our Pocket Paris book on the other side is for those with less time and shorter attention spans. It's abbreviated. If you want that information, the main primary difference in these 2 books, if you want those walking tours, you need the main Paris guide. If you have other ways of getting that information or you're taking a guided tour, don't worry about it. Buy the Pocket Paris book. Either way, download our free audio tours in Paris to your device. If it's a phone or any kind of application or a device, for free you can do it off our website. And get Rick's voice narrating you through the Louvre Museum, the Orsay, the Palace at Versailles, and the historic walk in central Paris. I'm a big fan of local guides for your learning. Not all the time, not every day, but they add a dimension to a tour that a book that you're reading and a self-guided tour just can't, you see. So in museums like the Louvre, where you'll have several English tours departing each day, they do a credibly good job. Or the Orsay, or neighborhood walking tours, like here in Montmartre, where neighborhood walking organizations, my favorite is called Paris Walks. They offer tours every day. Meet at 10 o'clock. Virtually every day they do Montmartre in the Impressionist neighborhood, but they do many others. It's whoever shows up at 10 o'clock goes on the tours. It's about $20 a person for 2.5 hours of a walking tour. Pepper your trip with walking tours like this when you're in Paris. The Paris Museum Pass makes sightseeing a breeze. For 90% of any of the museums that you're interested in are covered in this pass. Over 60 different sites covered with the Museum Pass. It comes in 2, 4, and 6-day increments. It averages about $15 a day cost-wise. You'll save money, no question. The average site in Paris is $11 or $12. All you have to do is go to 2 sites a day, and that's pretty easy to do, and you've saved money. But the real reason to buy this pass is because you own it. And you have this pass, and you'll dart into simple other museums that, well, Steve or Rick or Jean described it in the book, but I don't know if it's that great, but I wouldn't pay $10 for it. But I got the pass. Why not? And you'll be astonished at what you discover in some of those lesser-known museums. The pass also saves you waiting time in line for ticket lines, but not for security lines like this. This reminds me that the traveler's greatest challenge today in Paris are the crowds at the key monuments like Versailles or the Louvre. Thanks to growing economies in various parts of the world, more and more people want to see this grand city. And if you don't pay attention, if you don't read your guidebook, you'll end up here at Versailles on a Tuesday when all the big museums in Paris are closed. Hey, good idea, let's go to Versailles at 10 in the morning. Not an original brainstorm. Read your book. Arrive after 2. There's no line. That's not that hard to do. But if you're there at 10 o'clock, what are you going to do? Tour the gardens first. Rick said that in his guidebooks. All right, the gardens don't get crowds. And then come back later to tour the inside of the palace. Trust us in our guidebooks. Really, the best probably service we provide you is how to avoid lines these days in Paris. Getting around the city works just really well. It's a walker's paradise, I think. It's a flat city with a river running through the center of it, right? East to west, the Seine River runs. Anything to the right, if you're on a boat, as the current goes, is the right bank. To the left is the left bank. It's a flat city, if you remember. Walking at a human scale with these 8-story buildings, you don't have these wind tunnels as we do in our high skyscraper cities. And it works well. Just to give you a sense of scale, walking from the Eiffel Tower all the way to the Louvre Museum is a little bit over an hour along the river. Most of those sites that you want to see are also within a 10 or 15-minute walk of the river. You could walk a heck of a lot of the city. But you have to remember that once you get to the site, you have to keep walking. So the subway system, Europe's greatest subway system, I think, covers you everywhere you go in Paris. When you're exhausted, there'll be a subway stop somewhere nearby. Learn the words, où est le métro, monsieur, s'il vous plaît? And where's the nearest metro stop, and you'll be whisked home on a subway line. The subway in Paris works logically. It's easy to figure out, and honestly, it gets you everywhere you want to go. But it seems a shame to me to be underground in this beautiful city. So I'm a big fan of using the buses when it makes sense. Bus 69 that you're seeing here is one of those examples. You get beautiful views, right? And this bus connects the Eiffel Tower and the Rue Claire neighborhood with the Rodin Museum, the Orsay Museum, the Louvre, the Ile de la Cité and Notre Dame, the Marais district, and the Père Lachaise Cemetery. This bus gets you to many of the sites that you want to see in Paris. We like it so much, we wrote a self-guided tour. Start at the Eiffel Tower, hop on the bus, and you'll see when you cross this street, look to your left. Now when you cross the street, look to your right. For $2 for the price of the bus ticket, you get a self-guided tour through the heart of Paris. Only Rick would agree to that crazy idea of mine. And I know we've had lots of happy readers use that. The best way to buy tickets is a carnet of 10. It's really the easiest and most flexible way to go. They work on buses and on subways, though you can't transfer between the two. You can transfer between buses. You can split those 10 tickets between 2 travelers or 3 travelers. Children get a cheaper version of the carnet. Carnet means 10 of something in French. There are transit passes, that work on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis, right? But they are harder to use and to fit into your travel schedule. So for most people, that is the best way to go. The latest rage in Paris today is biking. 15,000 bikes are at your disposal in over 1,000 different, not 1,000, I don't know how many different bike stands, allowing you to pick them up at one point and dropping them at another. The Parisians have embraced this big time. It's used mostly by locals, but tourists can now take advantage of those bikes, even if their credit cards don't work on them, by booking on the website. And the reason to do this really isn't to use these as a sightseeing instrument. If you feel like just getting out one day and taking advantage of all the bike lanes that have been built now for bikers because of this point-to-point bike service, it's called Velib, built for locals, we can take advantage of it. Rent a bike through one of the bike rental agencies I recommend in the book. It's easier that way. And go for a 2-hour ride if you want to. Ride between Notre Dame and the Eiffel Tower and loop back on the other side. Easy to do in a couple of hours. Historic Paris. I've decided to organize my sightseeing for you today around my favorite 4 days in Paris, because this way I can describe to you examples of organizing your sightseeing ahead of time, not just running out, let's go to the Louvre Museum. Oh, wait, the Orsay Museum's close by, let's go there too. Premeditated sightseeing, organizing your sightseeing plans ahead of time makes so much sense. Let's go, and you'll see how I do this. Start where the city of Paris did, historic Paris, right? Its grandest Gothic monument, Notre Dame, recently cleaned. It looks just like this today. It's glorious as it stands. Started in the year 1163, taking over 200 years to complete. Imagine the medieval mindset then. It didn't matter to them. The community built a cathedral like this. Time was not important. All that mattered was contributing to the construction of this grand edifice of which they were so proud. Today, if my child doesn't get on the internet in 10 seconds, we're screaming. Our patience compared to medieval times is dramatically changed, isn't it? Put yourself in a medieval mood then when you're going to cities in Europe and in Paris like this, and understand how different things were then, and try to grasp how differently they thought. You can climb, rarely, is this ever a possibility in Europe, climb to the top of a Gothic cathedral? Yes, you can. It's covered in the museum pass. The entry, the church itself, the cathedral, is free. And I think this is about the greatest view you have over Paris. If you have a museum pass, it's free. Be careful. Lines are long because the 400 steps up naturally are windy and slow. Strategize when you choose to go up the tower, the South Tower of Notre Dame. Then tour the inside of this beautiful cathedral. Our walking tour and our audio tour, self-guided tours, take you through it. A stone's throw away, a long stone's throw with a good arm, lies the Chapel of Chapelle, still in the island of the Cité, where the city of Paris was founded, between a split in the River Seine. This chapel that we're looking at here, today almost smothered by the law courts of Paris, is the greatest example of Gothic architecture, if indeed the purpose of Gothic architecture is to stretch the church taller and to raise the windows using buttresses and to fill the windows, with stained glass to tell stories of the Bible. This has got to be the ultimate accomplishment. For here at the Sainte-Chapelle, built by King Louis IX, the only sainted king of France, because he found the crown of thorns, he wanted an appropriate place to house them. That's motivation. It took only 6 years to build this compared to the 200 years it took for Notre Dame, thanks to the king's energy. Here, over 1,000 panels will tell you the history of Christian civilization from the beginning of the world to the end of the world, designed so because when it was built in the 1200s, most people couldn't read. They were illiterate, but they did understand symbolism through those stained glass windows you see. All right. Get out. Get off the island after this, after Notre Dame and Sainte-Chapelle. Wander into the Latin Quarter. It ties in perfectly. See the beautiful views of the flying buttresses of Notre Dame from the left bank. Wander deep into the Latin Quarter, so called because some of Europe's first universities were located here, and the professors taught in the Latin language only, and students lived here. This is still a student ghetto. Today, the Latin Quarter is in Paris. Check the pulse of your lost generation compatriots here at Shakespeare and Company. In the early 1900s, thanks to World War I, the lost generation of people of Ernest Hemingway, Scott Fitzgerald, James Joyce, and more. Aldous Huxley, Gertrude Stein would gather here and try to figure out what sense of the world there was. and meet to discuss their writing. Further deep into the Latin Quarter, a few blocks away, you can dart into, with your museum pass, one of my favorite museums in Paris. This is the Clooney Museum. It's the museum to medieval times in Paris. Here, because you'll see, for example, lots of medieval relics gathered from monuments throughout Paris, like the heads here that you're seeing were chopped off on the facade of Notre Dame during the French Revolution. They're gathered here and on display for you to see today. You see, this is our historic Paris tour. We're celebrating the Middle Ages. The highlights, though, of the Clooney Museum are the several panels of original stained glass from the Chapelle church that I just showed you. These are original, 800 years old, posed at about 5.5 feet high, so you can see them very closely. You see, normally when you see stained glass, it's so far away, how could I possibly, without binoculars, understand and appreciate the detail? Well, you can at the Clooney Museum. You can actually reach out and touch these things and see how heavy that lead is that they used in stained glass windows. The highlight for many is the series of 6 tapestries called The Lady and the Unicorn, where a noble lady teaches unicorns about the senses of human touch, sight, smell, and taste. Guided tour, self-guided tour. It's one of our self-guided tours in our guidebooks in the city of Paris at the Clooney Museum. End your day going local. You hang out at this park, the Luxembourg Garden. This will be a highlight that you haven't anticipated. Enjoy watching Parisians at play. Rent a little sailboat if you have kids, and even if you are a kid yourself, rent one at this pond right here and let it race with other people's little sailboats. There's no shortage of activities for children in the Luxembourg Garden, but mostly I just like to sit at one of those chairs and watch what Parisians do in a park in the afternoon. You see, this is a perfect blend of heavyweight sightseeing sites, museums, neighborhood walks, and parks blended into one day. Day 2, we're going to tackle the Louvre Museum and then sashay up the Champs-Élysées to the Arc de Triomphe. Right? The Louvre Museum, the Louvre is the palace of the kings and queens of France over the centuries. Come the Revolution in the late 1700s, when the museum was closed to kings and queens, it was turned into Europe's first public art museum. And today, it remains as such. It's, though not designed as an art museum in the least bit. So the pyramid that you see, the glass pyramid, was added in 1985 to rationalize the entry, and boy, did that work. It's a grand entry to a grand art museum that makes sense of getting between the various wings, and you can't imagine the improvement unless you had seen it beforehand. With over 30,000 works of art, the Louvre Museum is a full inventory of Western civilization. From Mesopotamian artifacts, 5,000 years old, to Egyptian mummies, to classical Greek sculpture, to Renaissance art, to Napoleonic art in the early 1800s, where the museum stops chronologically. Here we're seeing the crowning of Napoleon by himself. No small ego there. This museum, to remind you, we provide self-guided tours in our guidebooks. The audio tour that you can download onto your phone or tablet works very well for the Louvre. There are local guides as well, and crowds can be an issue here. If you want to get closer to the Mona Lisa, you'll want to strategize when you enter this museum. And yes, the Mona Lisa does look a little bit smaller than people realize she's going to be when they see her in person. Go at night if crowds are a problem. It all depends on the time of year you're going. I would go at night even if there weren't crowds, because the museum on Wednesdays and Fridays is open till 9:30 at night. So go about 6. Everybody else is tired. They're going home. They're done. They're going to cafes. They're done. Enter the museum then exit when it looks like this. It's glorious at night. I'm not making this up. And even if you don't go to see the museum on the inside, make sure to pass by the Louvre to see the glistening, glimmering pyramid from the outside, glimmering from the inside. Then spend the rest of your day subwaying a couple stops up the Champs-Élysées, your world's most famous boulevard, climb up the 420 steps covered in the museum pass to Europe's grandest triumphal arch, the Arc de Triomphe. Yes, built by Napoleon, 2 times larger than anything in Rome. And sashay your way back down, crossing side by side, using our self-guided tour of the Champs-Élysées as you do. Passing by over-the-top, opulent shopping stores like this, some of which you need an appointment to enter. How about that? You want to buy a dress? I'm sorry, do you have an appointment? I'm not kidding. Okay? and stop to enjoy a cafe at this grandest of Europe's boulevards, paying more than you ever should for a cup of espresso, 10 euros, $10, call it. That's crazy on one hand. On the other, how many times do you have a chance to sit and watch the conveyor belt of European traffic go by? And know also that the waiter won't bring you your bill until you ask for it. So bring postcards or write in your journal. 2 hours later, that 10 euros is a pretty good investment of your time. Right? He or she who comes home with the most money doesn't win. Allow yourself some silly expenses once in a while. The Champs-Élysées is brilliant at night. If you have to choose and you only have one time you can go at night. You can still, the Eiffel Tower. The Arc de Triomphe is open till 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night, depending on the time of the year, and it truly does glisten any time of the year at night. Day 3 is my favorite day in Paris, Impressionist Paris Day. We're going to explore where the hill town where the artists gathered during the late 1800s, and then visit the 3 art museums that house their collective genius. This is a cool day to put together, and you should think this way. Wandering up then to this hill town here, that until 1870 was not Paris, but its own city. A wall separated that hill town from the city of Paris, and behind that wall, laws were different. Rents were cheaper, tax was not boozed, people were happier. Buildings like Sacré-Cœur were built, by the way. Not so interesting on the inside, you can tour it. Our book walks you through it, but beautiful views from the steps in front of this neo-Byzantine church. But the neighborhood behind it feels distinctly apart from the rest of Paris. And the artistic heritage, cheaper rents, that drew the likes of Auguste Renoir to paint. The spirited people here, again, drinking, dancing, having fun, because it wasn't that much fun down in the flatlands of Paris. Right? And dazzling, symbolic, ooh la la, red windmill in late 1800s. This was more scary and daunting to the French than the Eiffel Tower, built at about the same time, was, because they had never seen the can-can done before. It drew the attention of certain artists that you know, Toulouse-Lautrec, for example. And this was earth-shattering and pushed, I think, Impressionist art to another level. I mentioned before, we do a self-guided tour of the Montmartre neighborhood in our book, but Paris Walks does a brilliant, this is one of the ones I would highlight of theirs, or anybody giving you a walking tour, because it really brings it to life. So many of the stories come to life of that hill town. Then spend your afternoon touring the great museums, again, that house their art. The Orsay Museum is a converted train station. Brilliant home nowadays, right on the Seine River, housing all the greatest collection of Impressionist art, from Monet to Manet to Monet, pardon me, I reversed that, to Paul Cézanne, Vincent van Gogh, Toulouse-Lautrec, and everybody in between. Across the river, you'll enjoy the fans of Claude Monet can make their pilgrimage to the Orangerie, built precisely to hold the 8 panels of his water lilies, painted at an elderly age when he had cataracts and could barely see. These are a remarkable accomplishment of this artist. 15 minutes the other direction from the Orsay Museum. You can pay respects to the man who did for sculpture what Claude Monet did for painted art, Auguste Rodin. His works are thoughtful and romantic, each one of them. This is typical of Impressionist art, the greatest sculptor since Michelangelo. Again, walking tour in our guidebook. This museum seldom gets too crowded, and it's you can tour just its gardens if you want to for a couple of euros, or spend 10 or your museum pass to get into the interior. Day 4, the Marais district. This is cool, backdoor, hip, trendy Paris, example of seeing Paris at its trendy finest. This is medieval Paris at its best, with stone walkways. It's all centered around Paris's greatest square, I think, the Place des Vosges. It's the oldest square in Paris as well, in the heart of the Marais district. It's also the center for Jewish culture, Jewish people. Until World War II, the largest concentration, in fact, of Jewish people lived in Paris. Monuments, then, to their deportation during World War II, when 76,000 Jews would be deported from the city of Paris to concentration camps, is well commemorated at the Memorial de la Shoah, as well as there's a brilliant, relatively new history museum to Jewish culture, and it highlights their contributions to Western European culture, Many people come to the Marais district, though, for the modern art that's possible to see here. And here at the Pompidou Center, at the end, really the western end of the Marais district, wandering through, you can tour Europe's greatest collection of modern art. The museum itself is fun. Escalate to the top. It's all glass windows, and you have brilliant views over the city of Paris, while wham, bam, you get a sample of the greatest modern artists today in one floor of one museum. Thanks to the brilliance of the co-author, who is sometimes silent, Jean Openshaw, we have a guided tour to this and many other museums in Paris to help make sense of this abstraction in art. Just a few blocks away, covered in the museum pass, by the way, is the recently reopened museum dedicated to Pablo Picasso. 400 works of his in the greatest single collection anywhere in Paris is now open again, covered with a museum pass and ready for you to visit. End your day with the capital, in my opinion, the greatest monument to the Belle Epoque in France, the Opulent Opera House. Paris's opera house, finished in 1875, where once you enter, you can tour it on your own or with a tour a couple times a day. They offer guided tours. You will find right away that the point of this theater was to impress you, and it was more about being seen than seeing whatever the play was when you came, or the opera. It was all about how you looked, how you appeared, and the surroundings that you got to enter and have your intermission in. If you're not properly dressed, go today. If it's opera season when you're there, it's well worth attending one. And being able to sit in this auditorium where only 2,000 seats are. And it's easy, it's not that hard to get tickets. If you're not properly dressed, you can go right next door to the Galerie Lafayette, built at the same generation that feels like an extension of the Opera House, another Belle Epoque structure, and enjoy its grand perfume floor, the greatest I've ever seen in any department store, and shop for your own gown. Also, what I like about the Galerie Lafayette, in many department stores in Paris, they leave their top floors open for free with rooftop view terraces. This is the back of the Opera House, right there. You're staring point blank at it. And cafeterias provide cheap meals for people in those department stores. The Eiffel Tower, you can't leave Paris without seeing the Eiffel Tower. There's no way. I save it for the end before we head into Normandy. Europe's tallest structure for a long time, the 1,000-foot, 1,063-foot Eiffel Tower. The greatest view from it is the Place de Trocadero here. And here's a tip. If you read your guidebook, there's a little museum off to the left side dedicated to the architecture and monuments of France. I love the museum, included in the museum pass. You never pay the 11 euros or dollars to get in, but with the museum pass, maybe you'll go. What's cool about it is there's a cafe right here on the outside that nobody knows about with this view of the Eiffel Tower. It's called the Café Carlu. Now you know. The greatest view from the Place de Trocadero of the Eiffel Tower, and it's a crowded site. This is not the line waiting to get the tower. This is waiting for the fireworks to explode on the 14th of July when they were lit off from the Eiffel Tower. Right? But the Eiffel Tower is France's most difficult site to get into if you don't come prepared. You'll wait an hour and a half in line, which is a lot of time out of a day in your time. Book ahead. You can reserve your elevator up to the top 3 months ahead of time. The problem with booking ahead that far ahead, you don't know what the weather's going to be, do you? You may go on a rainy day, bummer, right? But at least you'll get up the tower. My advice is that you can climb that. You can stand in line. There are certain times of day that are quieter, or walk the stairs up to the first floor. It'll take you about 10 minutes. You've got to have energy to do so. You can also climb to the second floor. Those are the two greatest viewing platforms anyway, for a fraction of the price of getting up or booking a reservation. And then from there, you can take an elevator all the way to the top if you want to. You have to buy your way from there. But go late in the day whenever you go. Go late in the day, watch as the sun goes down and the city sparkles below. Then exit the Eiffel Tower when it's glimmering at its best, without question. Whether you go up the Eiffel Tower or not matters little to me, because there's other great views of the city of Paris. But there's nothing like seeing this monument lit at night, every night of the year looking this way. All the information I've just given you, and a lot more, is provided in our guidebooks, the Paris book or the Pocket Paris guidebook.
If you've enjoyed this video, you'll find lots more at ricksteves.com and on my Rick Steves YouTube channel. Happy travels, and thanks for joining us.